I've been asked by a lot of people about why I like Inigo as much as I do. And I'm gonna kind of go off script here for this. There's a lot of reasons I like him, but I think the best way to go about this is just kind of start from the beginning of sorts. I guess I could start with just how I even got into Fire Emblem to begin with. Now, I originally played Heroes first, and I thought that was fine enough, I guess. It was a gacha. It's still a gacha. And I figured one of the first ones I wanted to start with was the one with Sigurd in it, because I thought he was super cool. So, pro tip, don't start out with Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War first, because that game is brutal for first-time players. I honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into, realistically, when it came to the game. I remember the first time I played it, I kind of lost, all my units except Sigurd. And I thought, oh, okay, they'll just come back next time. But no, what ended up happening was, I only had Sigurd left. And that was kind of a problem. It was a whole experience. I had to make sure no one was dying. I had to make sure everyone was getting proper levels and stuff. It was a mess. Even still, I had a lot of fun with it. I liked the darker story of it, even though it was pretty much the first mainline one I played. I liked the characters. I liked the maps, even though you can really only use horse units. It was a lot of fun. But I knew that if I really wanted to learn all the mechanics and get into this stuff again, I'd probably try and play Awakening next, which is what I ended up doing after. Now, Awakening in itself, it's not my favorite game by any means. I like Genealogy of the Holy War more, personally, even though I was complete crap at it. But it was still a heck of a time for me. I liked it a lot. I liked the support system that kind of returned in a different fashion, because in Genealogy of the Holy War, you have this support and jealousy system if you're adjacent to allies. Similar kind of mechanic. You could get some conversations here or there, but this one went way more in depth with Awakening, and I thought that was really nice when it came to giving characterizations. Yet, also, me being my dumb self at the time, also didn't really know how to do anything. I ended up unknowingly pairing a bunch of people and unlocking paralogs, which was also kind of weird too, because I still didn't know what I was doing. And I was just playing through the game, right? And I see Paralog 6 pop up. I don't even remember who I paired Olivia with at the time, but I saw it, Paralog 6. I said, why the hell not? And I entered. And the first thing I noticed is this really cool dude kicking a bunch of ass and saving a maiden. And I thought it was pretty cool and charming. He was a really funny dude too. You had Liam O'Brien's voice acting. He was the charming smile. You had all the charming stuff, and it was really nice. And there were still funny moments even throughout the paralog too, like trying to recruit them with Olivia. And I thought that was funny because of their interactions. And then even after, where they're just talking about how oh yeah, I'm your son, and I'm also a dancer. It's like, ooh yeah, can I see you dance? It's like, no. It was funny because it was he was really cute. And then I got him, and it was like, okay, that's fun. And there wasn't really much for a while that I got from him. I was using him with a lot of other units, and I started unlocking some of these supports. Now, granted, I didn't get all the child supports because I didn't know what I was doing. So I did look them up after I played the game because I did want to read them, and they were funny. They're really funny. With Owain and Inigo, for example, they were fighting all. They were doing their own whole drama sort of thing, which evidently led to them bonding over naming their swords and stuff. And it was funny because he started carving his names into the blade. I thought that was funny. You had Morgan poking fun at Inigo because he kept getting rejected. That was funny too. You had all the Severa stuff. Severa's funny too, yeah. You had Jerome and Brady outperforming him in his own game. That was funny, you know, and it led to the funny haha manhandled sort of joke. All of them were really funny. Yet, if that was all there was to it, I probably wouldn't have liked him as much as I do. But the reason I'm so sold on his character is because of his support with his father, actually. I was already used to a lot of the funny ha-has from Inigo and all his other support, so I kind of went in with the same expectations. Oh, gosh darn Inigo, he's so funny, but that's not really what happened. Maybe for the C support, it was one of those things where it was still a bit comical, sure, when he was talking with his father and all. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm doing it to be popular with the ladies. And then he was like, no, all of the ladies. It was funny. Like, I didn't really think there was much else to his character. I figured he was like, oh, he's a funny dude with a bad habit for talking with women, or whatever, right? And then his B support came. And that's kind of where everything fell into place. You see him, like, after a battle coming back, and he's trying to hide his wounds from his father. Unsuccessfully, he finds out and hides behind the fact that he wants to be this super perfect man that the ladies will see him as, only to get scolded and compared to by his contemporaries, where in this instance, in the footage, let's just say Crom scolds him for not taking the war seriously. He's not as willed as the other ones. He's just out and about goofing off, to where everything starts tumbling down from here. And this is kind of the part where I was really, really sold on him. He starts talking about his real reasons and everything he's been through. He keeps on trucking, even though he can easily ball over and accept death. He puts a lot of pressure on himself just to save face. He's stronger than he gives him credit for, too. And even compared to his contemporaries, he still tries to hold his ground until he just can't. He lets it loose. He cares about everyone around him, even though he doesn't express it in the most direct way. And he's willing to shoulder as many burdens as possible just so there are less worries amongst everyone around him. So much so that he's not really worried about what others think of him, as long as he's taking a bit of pressure off from those around him. And at the end of it, he just acts like everything's alright, even though that may not be the case, because he was forced into a position where he had to be strong. Inigo is someone that, in a lot of cases, I can relate to in many ways, and it hits me on a personal level. It hits me on a personal level. Parts of me wish I could also simply give up, but that's not how life goes. You have to play the cards that you were dealt, no complaints. It's easier to let those believe everything is alright, rather than burden them with how you're really feeling. It's a burden that really comes at the cost of being alone, and while he may have his friends around him, there's no one that can carry the burden like he can, that he's letting on. There's no one carrying that burden with him. Yet, even though there are people that are willing to, he's not willing to give them that part of the burden. It's just a never-ending cycle that's masked by a smile and a laugh, enough to get the message across saying, I'm doing good, when he may not be. And it's something I can relate to, in a sense. Not everything is hunky-dory, as much as we would like them to be. And it's only exemplified in the DLC as well. Like when he's fighting Resin in the future past, right? And there's not enough time for all of them to get across the bridge. So Inigo and Owain decide to let Brady and Yarn cross. They cut down the bridge, and they effectively sacrifice themselves, even though in the end, they do survive. And during these fights, he has talks with his parents that he reveals that he's still trying to take on the task by himself, trying to show that he can do it all by himself, when in reality, he's just a walking mess. And it's another one of those things where it's, It's commendable, but also it's heartbreaking. I wish that he would let others help him out, but I also know that that's something that I also personally struggle with too. That I'll put on a brave front, a smile and a laugh, but I'm also a walking mess. And even though this is all like fiction, it's still nice to see that there's something I can relate to in that sense. Now, it's not 100% relatable, everything, for sure, but there's enough there for me to make a connection with him. And it's an odd feeling of comforting, yet upsetting, but I don't even know. It's all over the place, to be honest. But beyond that, I just really like him as a character. Even within Fates, I thought it was really cool that they added him back in. They gave him more comical stuff with all the retainers and everyone. Selena and Odin as well. It was a lot of fun seeing them too. And then the extra bits of characterization and lore that you could get. Just to learn more about these characters. And that's pretty much why I like him. There's a lot to unpack with his character, and a lot of it I can personally relate to. And yeah, I know this was a whole ramble and all, but I don't know if I didn't really have a means of preparing a script for this. So I hope you enjoyed the answer, and I'm sorry if it got a bit emotional. Thanks for listening at least. But yeah, I hope this answers that burning question.